December 3rd, 2024 joint session of the Switzerland County Council and Switzerland County Commissioners to order with a pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I guess since it's my understanding, the primary purpose of this is salary ordinance related items and maybe questions that council had for the commissioners. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Lisa, and
Yeah, we were going over the salary ordinance last meeting, council meeting. We're going to try to get through it in November. And then there were some questions on some items that were in the salary ordinance. And there were a couple of people that weren't at the meeting when we did the salary ordinance meeting, and they had questions. So the only way we could do that fair is to have a joint special meeting and let them ask the questions that they have. So, I mean, all of us were there at that one. We pretty much got all the salary increases and everything all ironed out. The hourly rates and all that was all done that day, but the code enforcement officer, they had questions on the code enforcement officer, which is basically Andy and Lance weren't there that day, and they had questions in the meeting. So I thought we needed, I'd have to ask the questions to you because it was in the ordinance and they wanted to strike it. So we'll let them ask whatever questions they have of you for that.
Really am doing something here. Why?
what's that? Why what?
We got planning and zoning with the sheriff's department. Why?
Why what?
Why do we need somebody to enforce these?
Code enforcement officer?
Yeah.
Well, for a couple reasons. One, and you brought up the sheriff, so we'll start with that one. You want the long version? I'm gonna give you the long version.
Please.
Probably before the end of my first term, back in around 2022, I approached the sheriff about enforcing license plates on buggies, which is an ordinance that we have. The response to that I was given was, can you imagine the perception among the public that one of my officers has a horse and buggy pulled over? And I said, Brian, I don't care about the perception. And the response I was given was, well, we're not gonna do it. So that's the reason for that portion of it. But that's just a small portion of it.
Can I ask one quick question?
Sure.
Why did we wait 3 years to tackle this again?
Well, I don't know what all you got going on, but I've got a hell of a lot going on, and that wasn't the most important thing on the commissioner's plate in the last 3 years.
It wasn't.
I mean, we've had floods, we've had COVID, we've had the courthouse was mowed. So it really wasn't the most important thing on the plate.
So why is it important now?
Why is it important now? Because it's important that we still do it. We have ordinances, we should be enforcing.
So why not planning and zoning?
Well, planning and zoning don't enforce the horse and buggy.
Okay, move on to that one.
So the other one is blight and or our nuisance ordinance. Around the same time, with our prior legal counsel, we had received a number of calls, a lot of them specific to patron and land development. But we also have calls every single month on other locations within the county that are blight nuisances. Okay, when I talk about blight, I'm talking about junk automobiles, junk mobile homes, dilapidated houses, those sort of items, if you will. At the time, our legal counsel advised us that the current ordinance in place was not enforceable to the extent that we would get the result that we wanted, meaning it would not hold up in court if it came to that. Okay, so since that time, we have kicked around, and again, I'm gonna say we probably went 14 to 16 months without doing anything related to that ordinance. Okay. About April of 23, I launched a advisory committee to review that ordinance and try to come up with a new ordinance for the county. There are members of zoning and planning on it. I asked the sheriff to be on it. I asked the prosecutor to be on it. And there's members of the public on it. Okay, so we've kicked around for almost, I guess, 20 months now, trying to create an ordinance. We have Pat Draft, which is now the new attorney, Pat draft an ordinance, but it was so complicated and the ability to, get enforcement, because it was solely dependent upon zoning and planning for enforcement. Okay, I know, you know, everybody in this room knows, if that's the only person responsible for the enforcement, it's not gonna get done. That's simple.
Then what changes when we add an enforcement officer?
Because we have a position that's dedicated to enforcing these ordinances.
So where does this authority come from?
Okay, so right now, Pat is in the process of drafting a new ordinance that includes or focuses on or is developed around the use of a code enforcement officer to enforce these ordinances. Okay, he has to have that presented to the commissioners by the last meeting of this year, which is December the 16th. At which time we hope to be able to adopt it. Again, hopefully we'll get the draft in time to do so. We still have one more meeting after that. We always have a wrap-up meeting every year. So if we don't have it done by the 16th and there has to be changes, we'll do it at that time. But that's the difference, is that this ordinance is going to be enforceable in a court of law. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. But it is also drafted with the primary responsibility being the code enforcement officer, not law enforcement, not planning and zoning, but a person that is specific to that job.
Once that ordinance, if it's passed and approved, can it not be the sheriff's office or planning and zoning to enforce it?
I can't make Brad enforce an ordinance if he tells me he's not going to.
There's only 3 ordinances out of all the county ordinances that would even involve the sheriff's office. Some of the county roads have speed ordinances, have had speed studies done. The other one is the weight limit study, and the other one is the Amish license plates. That's the only 3.
So everything else has to be enforced some other way.
Some other way, that's correct.
Is there any surrounding counties that have code enforcement officers?
Yes. In fact, Pat is supposed to develop our ordinance around the newly adopted ordinance that the city of Hanover adopted for their code
Does
enforcement.
Ohio County know, Ripley?
I don't know about Ohio
Well,
County
we
or
checked it.
Ripley County. I know the city
Their
of,
building
the
inspector.
city of Rising Sun, I believe, has a code
Their
enforcement
building
officer.
inspector does all that stuff.
Yes, the code enforcement officer based on this ordinance that's to come could be anybody you guys designated to be. It could be Mark Archer.
It could be Mark Archer, but if we designate Mark Archer, it's not gonna get done.
Well, if you tell him it's his job, it will.
No, not
There
necessarily.
is boss, right?
Well, yeah, but that's not his only responsibility.
Is this gonna be the new position's only responsibility?
It will be in the short term. And if you guys would have took the time to come to the meeting, one of the 3 meetings where I've explained this 3 times,
I'm done coming to meetings, man.
you would know the answer.
Special meeting after special meeting after special meeting. I'm never
Should
coming
have
to meetings.
meeting, Andy.
I guarantee I don't have one meeting left.
And you come with 30 minutes left.
Jesus. Some people got to work.
Yeah.
I can't take off in the middle of a fucking day every 2 hours. I can't take off in the middle of the day. I can't do it.
That's not my problem. I've explained this
You
4
have
times.
these meetings in the daytime.
I've explained this 4 times.
So,
We had some meetings.
Which meeting you talking about?
yeah, what meeting are you talking about at 5 o'clock? Because I'm at every 5 o'clock meeting.
Yeah.
So the first time we gave the explanation was the original budget meeting of the commissioners in September. Council then asked us to make a 10% cut to our budget. When we had those budget cut meetings, we gave the explanation again at that time. Both of those meetings were live to the public, or excuse me, open to the public and live on Facebook. Then the 3rd meeting, you was at, once we made the 10% cuts, Mike, you was at it. Once we made the 10% cuts, we come back and presented the new budgets to council, and we gave the explanation at that time as well. That meeting was open to the public, and it was live on Facebook. So if you choose not to use the options that are available to you and want me to come and explain it for a 4th time, yeah, I have a problem with it.
So we're gonna pay this third person $40,000. We gotta pay insurance. What's it cost on insurance per employee now?
17,000 is the benefit package.
17,000, so we're 57,000. They're gonna need a vehicle to get around town, right?
Yeah, we purchased that last night.
Wow.
You already purchased.
Wow.
Yeah.
One that you're already know you're gonna get it.
What about enforcement on this? So this guy can't pull over somebody on the road.
I disagree with you.
That's a moving violation in our.
I think you need to look up Indiana code.
Yeah, they can ticket and tow. By Indiana code, they can ticket and tow.
And if the person disputes it and this goes to court, this doesn't go through our normal court system, we got to pay our county.
It's a civil violation.
Already checked into this, just to make sure, it's an Indiana code. Terre Haute has it, Hanover has it, they have vehicles that are listed as code enforcement, they can flip their light on, they can pull them over.
We would have to pay our county attorney to represent.
If it went to court and they didn't just pay the fine.
Yeah.
Or they didn't just, whatever they
It's
got.
no different
cited.
than any other ordinance.
It's like that on everything.
What is the fine for not having a licensed buggy, just out of curiosity?
I don't know what the fine is. I know that.
I think it's $25 to license your buggy.
It's $25 to license.
And quite honestly, I don't know how many of you live on a road that's highly traveled by the Amish. The damage that they do to those roads compared to the damage that the normal person in this county driving a light vehicle, a passenger car or a passenger truck, is a hell of a lot more.
Nothing compared to the semis.
And they-
Nothing compared to the semis.
I agree. Semis don't use county roads.
They do all the time.
Maybe Dave Schuler, but as a general rule, the people of the community, the majority of the taxpayers in this county do not use semis. And quite honestly, $50 for a license plate is very minimal for the amount of damage that they cause to the road.
Can we stop for a second? John, would you give your report that you give to, I don't know if you guys go to the commissioner meetings, if you watch the commissioner meetings, but I follow them and
But Lisa, those are just a fraction of the calls. we
I know,
get.
but I'd like
We
for him
get calls
to,
every
I'd
month
like
on
for him to get
Seymour
the
Road. We get
report
calls
tonight.
every month
That
on
he gives.
the land development. We get calls every month on, Markland Enterprise Pike. I mean, we get calls for
I know.
city of, we get city of Patriot.
I've gone out and looked at when people have complained about stuff too, but I'll let just John's, because he gives you a report, I'd like for him to give it to council also.
Yeah, I know you're busy, so I'll go as fast as I can. For instance, in the town of Evie, I've been trying to clean up a backyard next to a single-family rental of mine since June 1st, 2001. 23 years. A year and a half ago, I reported 99 inoperable vehicles, very few of which moved. That was in the town of Evie. February 7th, 2024, I reported 22 inoperable vehicles in just the west side of Evie. As of November, this number has grown. We'll get away from Evie here. I still live on Long Run Road, where I was surrounded by 53 inoperable vehicles 3 weeks ago. Another junk truck is now in the neighborhood, so now the count is 54 at least. That's within a mile of my house. And also since September, a neighbor started a bald tire scrapyard. This is what we put up with in Switzerland County, and nobody cares.
Will this code enforcement also address raw sewage?
Say that again, Eric.
Raw sewage?
I would think that would be a health department and not code enforcement officer. But I don't know that there's a reason why that person couldn't assist.
And support.
But the primary responsibility, I believe, would be with the health department.
You know, I went on a ride along, right when I first started. Ryan Harrison and, the prosecutor at that time. And they took me straight to the land development. Ryan Harrison said, this is what we're up against. Because when it starts to look like this, the next element is the worst element. Now, I'm hoping that our new commissioner, Ryan Harrison, remembers that conversation. And he's gonna vote the way he stated it in the car with us, because it is ugly. And I don't disagree that it hasn't been addressed. I agree, there's been multiple other things. It's time to address it. And I think that's what's happening here, is you're getting ready to address it. It's not fair to a property owner that keeps their yards clean to be next to somebody that doesn't keep their yard clean. Only when that person decides to put lipstick on a pig, clean up their yard, that they benefit from the people that were cleaning up their yards. That's the issues that are out here. I know you guys get calls. I've been to many meetings where that gentleman's there every week, every year. You can go back, you can look at it. I don't think people are gonna give up their house because they get a lien notice. I have talked to both Hanover and Rising Sun. Rising Sun, they have I know you said it's their planning and zoning. That councilman told me it was their new ward, or sheriff, whatever he's called, but marshal that is enforcing. But he even said, Matt, we didn't find penalties, because by the second notice, Rising Sun changed. There was very limited revenue. Hanover had a different situation. People didn't believe they were gonna charge it, so they started collecting fees, and that's revenue. But the bigger point is, people should expect, when you put down the kind of money you do on a house, your largest asset to an individual, you should expect that we're gonna do our job to help them grow their property values. That's key. We're not asking for anything else. There's no banging on every damn door. If you're not gonna follow the codes, it seems to me, I was at the very first meeting. I saw planning and coding. Guys, if planning and code, we ask people to join boards, and that we did it last council meeting, please join. If their recommendation sitting on that committee meeting was to come to us and say, Jamie, we need a code enforcement officer, then that's what they do. Otherwise, we're gonna be code and planning enforcement. We don't have time for it.
You just
So
mentioned that.
there's the board.
Just mentioned about the land development, that a lien probably is not gonna mean anything, so.
Then you have to.
How do you
Look at-
know?
look at-
So
How do you know?
I agree.
the law enforcement officer,
You're gonna have to get enforcement.
we need the ordinance first.
There is,
But you're getting
That's
that.
what, and then I think that we utilize the people that we got to enforce it.
But let me finish my explanation. So also what everyone was told at all three of those meetings was that it is my belief that this code enforcement officer will only probably be busy the first year or 2 years, and then that requirement will drop off significantly. So if we're issuing citations, making sure that people are doing the cleanup or whatever the case may be, depending on the ordinance that it is, that portion of the job should drop off significantly. It's no secret, Mark Archer said, he plans to retire in the next year to 2 years. It is my intention for this person to sit right beside Mark Archer and learn the building and planning as well. Currently, we don't have a backup, so when Mark's gone, what does everybody do? They call the commissioner. What's commissioner do? Well, you'll have to wait till Mark gets back, because we have no way of, I don't know how to do his job, he doesn't know how to do his job. Then the ultimate intent would be to roll this position, when Mark retires, into a dual role. So this person would be code enforcement and, building inspector
Two things.
for the
One,
county.
I want to take, I don't know how to do his job and throw it over in the corner for a later conversation. But on that same note, I walk out my front door and I gotta look at Gary Wentworth's shit sitting in his front yard all day, every day. Absolutely freaking sucks. I mean, it sucks. I want it gone. But, and I'm not saying it's just the way it is and how it ever was, but I do not believe this county ordinance officer is gonna do a damn bit of good in this position. It's gonna cost the county a lot of money. We're gonna piss off the employee and we're gonna do away with the position in 2 years. Because that's the way other positions have gone over the last 2 years. That's my firm belief.
I mean, I can't change your belief, you're entitled to your belief, that is certainly.
Did I say I did not want an HR officer or an HR?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said that, right?
You voted against.
And all we did was cause a gigantic shitstorm. And now we're doing away with it.
You also said you want a 10% cut to the budget.
I didn't say that. I
That
wanted
was
to
the
sit down.
directive, right?
I wanted to sit down here and hash out the freaking budget like we've done it for the last 8 years that I've been on this freaking.
Yeah, and we know how that works. That's the commissioners make all the cuts,
No.
nobody else cuts shit. And then we walk out here with the commissioners cutting everything. We got 14-year-old dump trucks that we haven't been able to replace. We get $200,000 a year for road maintenance.
I think it's just got to do with
This is
mismanagement.
what I was talking about when I said the joint meetings never work. This is what I meant.
Well, why didn't you attend the other meetings?
I just found out this was a joint meeting when I walked in the door.
Can you
Where's
explain
the
that?
notification on that?
I didn't ask you guys to come to this one.
You just want to ask for an explanation, right?
Yeah. You two did ask an explanation about the code enforcement.
I did ask for an explanation. I didn't ask for a joint meeting.
Where do you get the explanation other than the guys that agreed?
It's not the guys, by the way.
My thought, listen to your reservations and listening to his explanation. We have never done this before. This is new, it's different. Sometimes you find out things work and sometimes you find out they don't. When you make your mistake is when you're not trying to fix a problem. When you're not trying to do something to fix a problem and you ignore it And obviously it is a problem because you just said when you walk out your door, you have to look at something you don't want to have to look at all the time, and it's not right. We've done nothing about it. This is an opportunity to possibly do something about it. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. We know for sure that if we don't do anything, nothing's gonna change. That's what we know for sure. We don't know if this is gonna work or if it isn't, and the only way to do it is to try it. That's the only way you know if it's worth it or not. We know that it's not gonna change if we do nothing. That's my take on it.
But the lawyer already said the old verbiage in the ordinance wasn't gonna hold up in court. The new verbiage should hold up in court. So what does it matter if a law enforcement, the planning and zoning is delivering the ordinance violation, or if it's the new?
Doesn't. But I think I've been clear. If we leave it to the building inspector, it will not get done.
I mean, I think there's some areas that could stand to be cleaned up and the new ordinance, we may as well address that, but I'm with Mike. I think we should use the existing personnel that we have. Yeah. I think this is an extremely expensive way to
So
do
it's
it.
basically no change.
Are we ready to terminate him if he doesn't do his job? You just said he wouldn't do his
I have
job.
no problem doing that.
Or if he doesn't do his job.
But let's pretend for a moment he doesn't. I mean, as long as everybody signs on for it, if he doesn't do the job, will we terminate him? If everybody agrees to that, then.
If he thinks he's gonna
Sure,
get
you- there you
terminated,
go.
he thinks he'll do his job.
Well, but I won't be there to do it, so.
I'm in a mind of trying the new way. The old way's not worked.
I 100% agree. I'm just
The
saying.
old way has not worked. I think that we need to try a new avenue.
All you're doing is setting
To
markers.
resolve the
I can
problem.
tell you right now.
We need a new avenue to resolve the problem, the issue of ordinances not being taken seriously. Like you said, I never thought about that only be a year or two that this person will probably work really hard and then it'll get cleaned up and things will change when people realize that, yes, I do have to do this.
Well, I think inherently the number of calls should go down, right?
I would hope
If
so.
people know that they're gonna get
Yeah.
fines and potentially have liens put against their property.
I have another question. Will this person also have, like, as far as the, with dogs and stuff like that, the ordinance that we have with dogs?
Well, that'll still be the primary responsibility of the animal
Animal
shelter.
control. But let's say like someone does, like, how animal control, I was in the meetings last year, the commissioner meetings where there were some big issues with some dogs.
I would tell you that rather than bothering law enforcement, I would think the first attempt would take the code enforcement officer
Okay.
with animal control. If that doesn't
Okay.
work, then we may still have to
Okay.
utilize law enforcement. Again, this person isn't law enforcement as far as
But if there's a code
They're
against
civil-
vicious animals.
civil enforcement, not criminal.
Okay, right. Did you guys have any other questions for him?
Is there anybody here from planning and zoning?
I was for 8 years and couldn't discuss because nothing got done after 8 years.
I mean, again, I'll go back. We asked these people to give us their opinions and sit on these boards. If that's what they came back to you with, that's what we asked for. We asked for the public to join these boards and make your recommendations. It sounds like they did that. You asked for the sheriff to join us, did the sheriff come to your meetings?
No,
You asked for
the
the
prosecutor
prosecutor to
attended
come?
the first one, then the sheriff and the prosecutor both said this is civil in nature, not criminal. No need for us to be.
So the committee that was there, that was formed by the commissioners, including the planning and zoning, which I can get behind this Mark Archer thing. You've said it a gajillion times, the guy doesn't do his job. So are you gonna get behind the comment that Eric, I'll get behind that. He doesn't do his job, we're giving you the authority to fire him. But everybody here needs to give them, say you're gonna be behind the commissioners when they do it. You wanna say it's their job? Then let's throw it out there and show that individual that we all stand behind the commissioners to fire him too.
Maybe he should have been asked to be at this meeting if he was gonna be.
Maybe he should have, but I agree, he reports to
Well,
them.
the ordinance-
We got council here making decisions of who should be fired and what they should do. So
Yeah.
let's go, council, let's get behind the commissioners on
That's
this.
the way the current
We
ordinance.
don't have to hire somebody, I agree, we don't have to hire somebody.
I still would like to try a new way to do things. I'd like to do a new path to do things in a more civil way,
We gave
And
him until the sixth,
do it the right
before
way.
the 16th. To present the draft to the commission.
That position is in the ordinance. It is there. So I guess
I hope y'all, I'd like to make a motion to zero that salary out of the salary limits.
I'll second that.
to zero it out, right?
Randy, what were you gonna say?
Lost my train of thought. I mean, I think it'd be foolish to do that, but.
So that's a vote that the
There's been a
council
lot
has,
of foolish things happen.
that's a vote that the council has to take. You got a motion and a second?
Yeah, you gotta vote on it.
All right,
I'd like to see it taped,
table
Table
for
for
another 30 years.
let the other commissioners and council that's been elected come in.
Well, you
But
know,
the salary ordinance has to be done this month.
That's what
So-
voting down does.
That-
It
that
pushes
can't
it
help
to the
it.
new
That can't
council
help
and commissioners.
The only reason I would table is just to read the ordinance.
your point. Tabling it, I did the same thing, Matt, when I was on council with you guys. I did it right along too. Ryan and, well, both Ryans, Harrison and Marshall.
Oh, I know.
Again, first thing, I mean, you know, so what Matt has said is absolutely spot on.
It was
Oh,
it
it's
was
like
just
right
a
around
land
the
development
county,
they
I'm
took
all
me
over
through.
this.
Yeah, they just used land development as the first place
There's
they
a lot
went
of
in.
cleanup that needs to be done.
But basically,
Yeah, I got that
that
shit
ordinance gets
before,
passed.
it's coming down sometimes.
It's gonna be either the new position or planning and zoning, handing a notice, right, to the homeowner, or whatever it is.
Mhm.
From there, it's gonna get picked up in the courts regardless,
Planning and
If they
zoning,
don't-
like, it's just a
If
board.
they don't
if
comply.
they don't comply.
Yeah, the only thing that I have to go with that on is that the town of Patriot has done this. And, Judge Coy's been very active with helping them. Because they have, been citing people, they've been fining people, people have been paying their fines, and Judge Coy's been very, very receptive to them, according to the town council that I talked to in Patriot. And it's made a big difference. Am I wrong on that, John?
Oh, you're right. That's right. They're about half cleaned up now and they
Yeah.
have enforcement.
And they've been working on it very hard, and they did get, they have a code enforcement officer helping them do that.
because
And they,
Mark
well,
wouldn't
the
do
first,
anything.
the council was doing it themselves,
What county?
Patriot, the town of Patriot.
John Patriot,
They have a code enforcement officer in the town of Patriot.
I
part-time.
guess. I don't know.
They just hired one
Who
part-time.
he
days
is.
a week.
They've been there 2 months.
Do you know the pay of it?
I have no idea.
Job's already taken.
I have no idea.
Big Baby has.
Nobody wants it.
But I know that the town council was doing it themselves because they were desperate to get something done and they couldn't get anything done. And they were asking the county, but that's the reason why I know about that, because they asked me to come. And there was a lot of phone calls about how can we can't enforce anything, we can't get anything enforced. And then they had a lawyer there and they finally realized they wanted to hire a town marshal, and they couldn't. They couldn't afford it. And then they ended up hiring a part-time code enforcement officer after the council began doing the citations themselves, sending it to the homeowners that they had to clean it up. And Judge Coy was very, much a player in it with them, helping them, because he actually made the people do what they were cited for.
Did they have
Florida,
their,
Joey Ryder sits on the advisory committee, and has been very helpful since he's very familiar with the process that
Yeah.
Patriot has gone through as well. But he does sit on that advisory committee.
did they have new ordinances put in place
Yep.
for the
Yes.
town before they hired the marshal?
Yeah, they've been
They
working
did.
on it for a few years. They put in new ordinances and the town council was doing the job
Right.
of the
And
code
they
enforcement
didn't
officer.
do,
I'm all for it. I swear to God, I'm all for it, but I'm not in the business of pissing off another employee and not taking care of our current employees, so I'm voting no on this. Hands down.
Even though it's a good idea.
It's a fantastic idea. I'm not,
Makes zero
I'm-
sense.
But it's the same ideology, whether it's him or the new person handing a slip for the ordinance violation.
someone that actually will do it,
There's where you're at, Mike.
someone that'll actually do it. We've done it every other way and it hasn't worked. So that was.
For the current ordinance, you know who's responsible for it? The building stuff.
But this code enforcement officer also will be trained to do building inspector.
We'll be cross-training on that position.
We can
Now,
cross.
there's nothing that says that that person's willing to do both when that day comes. You know, you can't make them do both. So, you know, you may be in a situation where you have to say, okay, well, we're gonna consolidate the two. We're gonna hire a new person that's willing to do both.
Rewrite the job description.
Absolutely.
It is.
It is what it is.
It's gonna happen.
Somebody will sign up
Okay,
for the job.
Well, we have a motion, to strike the code enforcement officer from the salary ordinance, and we have a second. So, I'm all in favor, we'll have a vote on that. Who's in favor of striking it from the salary ordinance? Who's opposed? Okay. There's other ways to skin a cat. So,
Yes, there is.
okay.
And I need to remind you that you've got a health building, a tech building, and a Moorfield Bennington sewer that you didn't advertise in the budget that belongs to the county.
Yes,
So you need to figure out how you're gonna fund them when you do the rest of your meeting and take those into consideration as far as your budget.
Even though you already said in the last budget meeting that you were okay with giving us that money.
I said I'd give you money for SCER. I said I'd give you 300,000 for SCER.
Agreed.
Well, Jamie, they can't do anything this year anyway.
Not my fault, it wasn't advertised.
They can't do anything. It's gonna be on you next year because you're gonna
Council's
get one.
responsibility.
They can't,
Not
they
commission.
cannot
So
do
the
anything to the
code
budget. The
enforcement
budget's been
I'm to the
advertised.
point now where council doesn't have any responsibilities. I don't even know what we do anymore.
there's
So
no-
we get no say in anything.
there'll be next year, you guys will have to do an additional appropriation. Pay for
Appropriation.
the, tech
You know.
building and for, Moorfield Bennington sewer, because it was not put in the budget because it was assumed it was gonna be paid off.
I brought this up before the
That's
budget
what he
meeting
wanted to
and
be,
during the
was
budget
in the
meeting.
general
And I was on the phone
budget.
with you in the meeting when you brought it up too, and it was still left out.
Jamie, I can appreciate, I mean, the vote's been taken. I will say this. By rule, because you guys control the casino revenue money, you have the ability to go out and create a contract. Just
We
like you
can,
do.
but
I know, but
that makes no
I'm
sense.
just saying, if that's what you want to do, you do have that authority to use casino revenue, create an outside contract and hire this individual if that's what you want.
You're absolutely right, we did.
So, I mean, I know what you wanted, it didn't get voted, but now you have that opportunity to, which limits what you're gonna support next year. If you guys voted, claim it. They can't knock it down, you can do what you want.
Puts it
Which
in-
I realize
It's on the other way, but it didn't. You
But
had
when you
that.
hire this person on contract, they're not gonna get benefits, so what was gonna cost you probably 55 to 60,000, now gonna cost you 70 to 75.
If you're looking at it from a business perspective, I'll help you with that. Then you pay the extra $7,000 for them to go out and get private insurance. That's how you figure this out. I agree, I voted for the guy, and there's ways around this, you can have those ways around it.
They said we need to do the treasurer,
Yes, we're gonna do Stacy Matthews next, the assessor. Because we had questions on the assessor, your third person.
Okay. So, do any of you have questions for me?
The question was when we were going through the salary ordinance and you get back to you and I had a couple questions, I could tell you right now, but it was in the general fund.
Well, I answered those. I didn't know if anybody else had anything.
Okay. This has to do with, your, deputy, your reassessment deputy is the only thing. And then you and I were talking about the extra clerical 2,000 and the order review 5,000. Those are the two things that are paid out of, reassessment.
Mhm.
Remember, you didn't know what was paid out of it. Well,
Oh, yeah, you were saying that the money
Yeah,
that we get
the
for,
general,
yeah.
But anyway, so that's what the question was.
So the reassessment is for the third position in my office.
If it's left on here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the extra clerical is for when, because we have to do certification and we have to do continuing ed classes.
There's no question.
Okay. So that's for that. What was your other one?
Yeah, it was just for the deputy. you don't have the third deputy in there now and.
No, I do.
Okay.
It's in there. I put that in
Well,
there.
I
I
mean,
didn't
yeah,
hire
that's no
somebody. I
whether-
didn't hire someone because I didn't know if you were in talks of not, keeping
Yeah.
that position. I didn't want to hire someone and 2 months later be, I'm sorry, you're out of a job.
That's what we're asking you about.
I need that.
Yeah.
Yes, I do need that.
So you can hide, you can fund this position without being on the salary. You have that ability.
Yeah.
So we don't have to pay a benefit. You currently hire a company for how much? 40,000 to do all assessments?
Okay, first of all,
I'm just, that's all I want to know is, do we hire a company to do all assessments?
to do reassessment,
And
yes.
how much do we pay that company out of general fund?
I don't know, you'd have to look because you're the ones that sign up. Anyways,
Well, I mean, you did
all
bring
the
that up
counties-
at the commissioners meeting.
all the
when they asked
county,
that.
pretty much all
How much
counties
was
in
that?
Indiana hire
It's
somebody.
40-some thousand.
Okay, so I'm talking, so you want to listen for a second? Okay.
If
Okay,
you're at a
so
special
I'm-
meeting for council,
yes.
I'm the one that asked.
No, and she asked me to come, so I'm here to talk.
And you
But
said-
you keep interrupting me.
Go ahead, Stacy.
Okay, so the reassessment is, we do that, it's a 4-year cycle. And all the other pretty much every county in Indiana hires it out. The ones that don't are the ones that have like 30 and 40 people in their offices. There's a thing out there, you can look it all up. Because Matt said in your budget hearing that nobody does, it's frowning, but they do. Because you have to have the manpower. So the 4-year cycle is where we physically visit a fourth of the county every year. And that's what that company does, because we don't have the manpower to go out and look at each and every one of them parcels and measure and make sure everything's right, because people build stuff all the time and don't get permits, tear stuff down and don't tell us. That's part of our job. So they go out and do that. Then they come in with all the data, we enter it all in and we do all that. We have to validate the cells. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that we do. We do transfers, we do sales validation. We have to come up with trending factors that is done every single year. And that we do an assessment that takes those trending factors and they apply them to everyone's property. And then that comes up with so we have to put in new construction. We got to do, cost tables are updated, trending factors land values are adjusted, new construction, tear downs, all that. We put all that in there and then we come up with a new assessment and then we generate our Form 11s. We send them out. We do everything in-house. We don't hire it out like some of the offices. We do it all in-house. We stuff all them. We mail them all out ourselves. We also, we do contract with the company that does the field work, but we do everything else behind the scenes.
So you're thinking a full-time position and not a part-time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if we don't have an adequate staff, having like credible assessed values may be in jeopardy, which could result in higher tax rates, which the taxpayers would have to pay for that. Because if our tax rates are jacked up, you want someone in there knowing what, because everything starts with us, with our office.
And now you're,
The whole
person
tax-
that does this has to have the same certifications like what you and your deputy do.
I'm a level 3, she's a level 2, but the other one was a level 2.
And then the reassessment deputy would have to be at least a level
Level
1,
2,
right?
level 2.
Okay. So they have to have schooling in order to have it, which one that's who you hire.
Because nobody, and that's another thing, you're wanting to cut the pay to 1950. Nobody wants to come in here and do that for 1950 and take all that schooling. That's just crazy because, they're hiring all these new people, more money and all that, but yet you want to cut people's pay and everything else. Yeah, go ahead.
So what is full-time for you? What is full?
In my office, it's 36 hours.
36 hours. So if you had somebody and you were running 40 hours,
No.
40 hours, know what?
I know where you're going. No, we wouldn't get it all done in 40 hours.
I didn't get to finish because you interrupted me.
Yeah, well,
Right?
I'm just doing what
Right?
you
So
do.
that
Yeah,
works
go
both
ahead.
ways.
Go ahead.
So here's the deal. So you add up, how many hours is it if you get 4 extra hours, 8 extra hours out of the 2 staff members that are there every month? How much does that come to annually?
Figure it out.
How
I
much-
don't know.
Yeah, because you haven't figured it out. It's not my job to figure up your office. We have other offices. The treasurer has looked at their office and said, we don't need all this, and they've already cut back.
What did
The
they cut
clerk's
back?
office cut back.
They didn't cut anything back.
Caleb, it's not your comment.
I know.
That's another lie. Another lie.
I'd like to know what the treasurer's office got.
They have not cut
They cut
nothing
Nothing.
back.
They had 2 positions. if you remember in the budget, they cut both of them. They're gonna only have their deputy. They're
No.
not-
But it was a new position that they were
Part-time, Lisa
creating.
Told me to add back in.
Guys,
No,
all I'm
no,
asking is
she's-
do your math,
she's
tell
got
us how much, if you were to go.
I'm just telling you, I need 3 people in my office. I pay for the one out of reassessment.
I would say get rid of the company and.
Stacy, you have adequate funds in the
Yes, I
reassessment
do.
fund for 2025.
She does.
Yeah. The only thing is the
But it can't be
general
on
fund
salary,
comes down
because
to
we don't wanna pay
benefits.
the
Right,
benefits.
right.
Well,
It's,
it's for the 1950 an hour, which is what we have in the salary ordinance.
So I'm making the motion, she gets to hire it, but it was, here's my motion. The individual was not on the salary ordinance, so we have to pay benefits for it. She has the ability to hire that individual, just what we just did a couple minutes ago. That's my motion.
Well, can she do what you just told Jamie you could do with the contract and then
Yeah,
you'll
that's what
help
he-
her
that's
find
what he
the
just
private
That's what I said you can do.
Contracts.
Yeah, you can hire.
insurance and help her find the private insurance?
No, not helping you, that's your office. That's the beauty of your office.
I run my office fine with 3 people.
That's-
Have you had any
That's what I
complaints
said.
about my
I
office?
said, you can do
See,
this.
with 2 people, you are gonna be cutting us down.
I said, you can do this.
Why did you not leave it alone?
Do something with
Hold
it.
the record.
I will.
Is the county growing such that we need to add?
No, they've had a.
This
third-
isn't a new position.
They've had a third person in that office since I've been on council. It started out being as a
Yes.
part-time position.
It's
And
went
then-
back and forth over
And
the
then it
years.
went from part-time to full-time, then it went back to part-time again, and then it went to full-time again,
And
and,
the state continues to give us extra
and-
stuff, like
yeah.
we're doing all the trustees.
and the county's never
reassessment
paid
stuff.
for that third person.
Yeah, they did at
Well,
one
they,
point.
they
They
paid for
did.
part-time at the beginning.
They did full-time and then they cut it to part-time and then Joni
that was-
did.
that must've been
Yes, it was
before I was
before you.
around,
It was
because-
before you.
Because when I was around, they
I've been
asked
here
to-
20-some
they
years and
paid
it has went back
part-time.
and forth all the
And
time.
then, they asked, and I think the council paid for half of it, and the assessor paid for half of it, and she come and asked about if we would pay for the whole salary instead of just part of it. And we voted no to do that, and we asked if she needed a third person, she told us no, that she's having a hard time finding things for them to do. That was years ago. before
Years
we had to
ago,
do much
yes,
stuff.
yep.
And then, but they've had a third person for quite a while, but they have the money, the funds to pay for it. Out of a reassessment, huh?
Who did reassessment?
Tyler Technologies, you remember them?
Yeah, they've always hired.
We've
somebody.
always, you can check around all the
Yeah.
surrounding, you just don't have enough people to go do all that.
They've always hired somebody to do that.
Because we have all of
That's
our
the
own
thing.
daily to do too.
All right, you got a motion on the table.
Yeah.
Individual, anything she wants. She has the function. It doesn't have to be.
That wasn't your
for the-
motion.
The benefits, that's the
Let's leave
motion
it in there.
to us.
No,
County's
it was,
changing
it
it.
was to remove it.
Remove the individual from the salary.
Remove,
That's my motion.
remove it from the salary ordinance, but then she could still hire a third person. It's just all the expenses are on
If-
her. And the
If you
county's
do
not
that, are you
there
gonna
for
start
benefits.
paying my Xsoft and all that?
Yeah,
Do
just
what?
let
My
you-
computer, all my programming, because I pay for all that reassessment.
Because that comes
Will you
out
start
of-
paying for that too?
No, it
No.
doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
It comes out of her reassessment.
Yeah,
It's still gonna come out.
we pay the medical benefits for it. That's
Yes,
what it
we
is.
has benefits for it.
But it was okay to pay for someone else's, but not mine.
I'm just-
This is you getting back at me like you threatened me.
No, I didn't threaten you.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. This is you trying to get back at me.
Stacy, you're over.
So
You're
anyways,
out.
what's your,
What was,
Still got a motion on the
Lisa,
table.
what was,
For a second.
what was
I
the
have-
motion?
I have- Is there a second to that motion?
What was the motion?
The motion was
To remove
to
the,
remove the, third deputy out of the reassessment on the salary ordinance.
to remove position from.
Yeah, everything beyond that really doesn't matter. That's not our position to do any of that. That's all her thing to do, however she wants to do it. It was to remove the third deputy out of the reassessment budget. It doesn't bother me that it's there because I don't pay for it.
I'll second the motion. I mean, everything I read says the county is shrinking. We could debate those numbers probably all night, but the appropriation book says we're at 9,700 change in people in 2023. That's all counties.
people are different than parcels.
Understand, but the peak was a little over 11,000, so we're effectively down more than 10%. So I'm not sure why we're adding, but
Because the
it's
state.
outside, it's outside of the budget. I'll second that motion.
It's not adding it.
Go down.
I'm torn on how I want to vote for it. But we've got a second. We got a motion by Matt. We already heard. It was down, that made a motion to strike it. Eric did the second. All in favor? You don't want to pay benefits for that person, so I'm gonna vote for it. Because I don't want to pay benefits on that person. We've got to get our benefits in the general fund.
But you told me that you were saving $400,000 on this insurance. You mean you can't afford to pay somebody's benefits for one person?
$17,000.
But you just told me Saturday that you're saving.
Votes on the table.
All right, and all for it, I mean, against, sorry. All right, motion passed.
Motion did not pass.
Did not pass.
Well, no, it failed, yeah,
Thank you.
so you get your.
And while I'm up here in the heat of everything,
Yeah.
can I ask where these 1950 rates came from? That you guys are wanting to put
It was a 4% raise
on,
the salary from 38,666, 4% raise based on a 40-hour work week because the courthouse is open.
but
40
nobody
hours.
worked 40 when you did this. So like, I don't
The
know.
courthouse is open 40 hours.
It wasn't though. So,
But the
so,
courthouse was open
so
40
for
hours this whole year,
23,
right?
for 23, the salary ordinance,
The courthouse hours was 40 hours.
but our
But
salary
we
ordinance,
did not.
but our salary ordinance that was passed for 23 was for 1,768 hours. So I'm gonna take my deputy. In 23, she made $21.24 an hour. In 24, this year, with the extra 2 hours that she's working each week, she's now making 21, or she should have made 21.87, but she's not. She's making 20.66 an hour. And then next year, you guys want her, and it's just all deputies. You want her to make 19.50 an hour.
Yeah,
That's-
how we come to it, what we come to, we took the 38,666,
Mhm.
gave them a 4% increase.
But then,
They haven't been working 40 hours this year.
because they weren't
So,
required.
well, the courthouse was open 40 hours, but they weren't working 40 hours. We gave a 4% increase, and then you divide it by 2,080 hours.
But you
which is a
started off at the
40-hour
wrong
work
hourly rate.
And
for
it,
her,
and it
for all of
gelled,
them.
it becomes more gelled with what all the other county employees that work 40 hours.
Except for the commissioner's employees. Because right here I have planning and zoning, he's gonna make 22.03 an hour next year. The maintenance man is gonna make 22.53 an hour. The highway clerk is gonna make $20.44 an hour. And she's
Public
new.
record, you don't have to read them all.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't know, I don't really know if you guys are aware of that
And the
because,
county's gonna lose how much in revenue because of the Belterra issue?
because
We
it's
lose there.
just, I have no idea.
You're the one that helped us lose it.
I mean,
I didn't help you lose it.
You voted it.
I didn't.
You're the one, when they charged us, did we go to court and fight them? Nope, we agreed. Give it to them.
Did you want to pay another
So,
$1 million in
We're
legal
down
fees?
revenue. We gotta figure this out. We asked every department to cut 10%.
Yeah, how many?
Okay,
cut to
anyways.
10%? Just curious.
That's not up.
Huh?
How many departments cut to 10? This is a question for council.
almost,
How many
almost
departments-
everybody did.
Oh,
I
that's
think
not
the
true.
sheriff's department did not.
I cut some.
I
Yeah.
cut some, I cut as much as I could.
I think most of them did.
We can have this.
Most of them
conversation all
did.
day long.
It's irrelevant. It's
Yeah.
irrelevant.
It was 10%,
It is
and I'll tell you why they did.
I didn't like to vote earlier, so that's why I asked the
Okay,
question.
let me
It's really
explain to you
irrelevant.
why they did, okay? They did cut 10% over what they were asking for, because we had a 22% increase asked for the deputy in her office.
That's,
Never
no,
cut it
we
10%
did that
because I-
because it was to make it
Because
for
I
all
gave
the
you
hours.
300,000 to
But we
fund the
had a
difference.
22% increase, so it's really easy to get a 10%
Not I.
Then
we
in that
commissioners.
department.
I
when
asked-
What was asked
We,
was
the
that much of an increase.
Plus, you didn't advertise all of the
You did.
responsibilities of the county, and therefore you expect them to be paid somewhere else.
But you guys did cut your 10%, that's what I'm
Yeah,
trying.
and I only asked for 11%, not,
That isn't what was.
yeah, because that spreadsheet, that whatever is wrong. That is not what I
Well,
asked.
that's what we were given. We're given a 22%
You're- yeah,
increase asked.
No.
So that's
So
what
you-
we go by.
Do you have any more questions for the commissioners? I
No.
can see a reason.
They gotta be here for the sheriff part, right? The IT.
Are you done with me?
And
I'd like for you to be, yes, I am.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Come do the coroner real quick, because I don't know why that's even here.
I don't know, apparently it was brought up,
There was a question about that.
somebody questioned how
Right.
important the deputy coroner was last
It
year,
wa- It was
or
a
last week.
statement made by
Okay.
me that by state law, we don't even have to have a deputy coroner. when
Okay,
they were
well-
Talking about cutting stuff.
Okay, so apparently to me, it was brought up that how important the deputy coroner was. And somebody had made a comment, we only have 5 deaths year in this county. So let's do this. To date, this year, there's been 69 deaths in this county. Not all of those generate a coroner's call, but there were 69. Last year, I believe last year we're 69, this year 60. All right, and I'm not gonna name county by county, but just to let you know how important a deputy coroner is, these are all surrounding counties, not counting, coroner salaries. One county has 3 paid deputy coroners, there's one with just one making $10,000. Another county has 8 paid deputy coroners with one making over 16.5 and trickles down from there. Another county has one that has 9 paid deputy coroners and a trickle down from there. That is not counting the coroner's salary. And my deputy coroner and I, we're the ones, we take care of all the calls. We have tried in the past. We did not ask for any more money from the county. I've never asked for any money in 8 years that I've been coroner. All right. The only thing we did one other time, we took $5,000 out of a deputy coroner's salary and tried to make a third spot. Okay. What we found out is $5,000 is not enough to make somebody responsible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, weekends and holidays included, to be on call and answer the call when it comes in. It did not work. Joe and I were still taking all of the calls. But we have no problem doing that, and we do it to this day. So we just moved that back. All right.
I remember.
So that's what we do. And it was brought up that apparently it was a question on how important the deputy coroner is. The deputy coroner is very important because, one, you want to have it, you want somebody that you want to compensate that's responsible and that you trust. Because I know when I leave the county right now, Joe is very capable of doing it. He does a fine job. And when I'm going to help Joe in the transition, and Joe needs to have somebody, long term, I'm not planning. He'll be the new coroner. For a minute, I'm going to help him. I don't want to do it, for 4 years. Okay. But he needs to find somebody. And like I said, you're not going to do it for any less
Do
money.
you think our compensation is just a little too high on that position?
I don't know. You want to go on a few calls with me?
That's not my question.
Okay.
I know that you're telling us about the other counties. You can't base it off, you gotta look at their size, you gotta look at what. kind
And you
of
can't base
taxes
it off
they
numbers either. Okay.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
I'm asking you to tell us, you think it's the right amount?
100%.
Last meeting, you mentioned, maybe we need to look at that position specifically for salary. That's what you were talking.
Okay.
I looked at it, I agree. It seems, it's over 50% of the salary for a part-time, right?
Yeah, but we're on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I understand. I understand.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking. You're the guy.
You know where I spent Thanksgiving? On a coroner's call. Okay.
Corner said was not where
Hey, Matt, look, Matt, I'm gonna give you some information. I actually looked in the appropriations book and I just used the head count, the number of people we have in our county, assuming deaths are somewhat similar. And the amount that we're paying the coroner and the deputy coroner, by my math, is a fair number.
Okay.
It's a fair
That's
number.
what I'm asking.
Right.
I'm not looking.
So,
If you tell
On
me
a
you're
per
good with
head
it,
basis,
I'll
per
vote
capita
for it.
right,
basis,
and
it's within $1,000 or $2,000 of the average for those who submit. Now,
Right.
we don't submit any of our salary information, so we weren't included. in any of the
and here's
calculations.
another thing to keep in mind. If we had a hospital in this county, obviously our coroner calls goes up. But here's saying that some of your coroner's calls when you're in a county with a hospital, they generate at the hospital. We don't have that luxury. Every one of our coroner's calls are in every corner of this county, campers, trailers, you name it. That's where we're at. We don't get to just go to the hospital and pick up coroner's call. We go everywhere. So,
Interesting. The hospital got killed with the road.
yes,
So I'm sorry about that.
no. So that's what I'm here. And that's, somebody questioned, somebody messaged me about numbers. I didn't have those in front of me. I looked them up.
I didn't call you and ask you to come here. 'Cause
No,
for me,
that's fine.
It was a dead subject.
Okay.
So, but thank you for
No problem.
coming in and telling us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for asking.
Okay. Otherwise, I would have called you. All right, IT. All right, this part of this is the charge. I don't want to pay for 2 IT people. Well, I've learned a lot of stuff while I've been doing this investigation. I did not realize that one IT person is a completely contracted service. Marty. And why do we have to contract a service if we have an IT person? So that was the question.
Well, I mean, my IT guy, like I said before, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but he's just done it because he's worked there for 20-some years and Luckily, he was a tech guy and was willing to take care of every little IT related issue, thank God. So we've never had a contract with anybody at the sheriff's office. We've been lucky. He didn't get paid any extra for that. He makes what he makes because he's been there for almost
What
20.
kind of contracts that out? Did you read the new cybersecurity report that we got?
Yeah, that was forwarded to me. That wasn't a cyber assessment that was done. Sheriff's office,
It
I
wasn't
think
done
that,
in-
I think that originated with election cyber safety is how that started out. I did go over it and look at some of the charts and some of the things that they requested need to be tightened up a little bit, which so a lot of those things on the charts, as far as safety goes, we've already got a place over there. We just have to, you know.
So the court was the one that asked for it, but in the report, they are giving us a full analysis and they're willing to sit down. You didn't show up to the final meeting, nor did, no. The only two people that showed up to that final meeting that were asked and were sent emails, letting them know that this was gonna happen.
I wasn't invited to
So-
that meeting, Matt, and actually.
No, you were.
No, actually, the
Because
report.
I got the invite.
Yeah, but the report, Karen had sent me this report like a week or two ago and apologized because she had sent it earlier, but had the wrong email.
Right.
So I have the correspondence.
So I know that we all receive it. I'm gonna guess everybody's looked at it. You can see this gentleman from Homeland Security walked around with them and they're offering that we can get back on the phone with them. But they walked through this building and said all the security issues that we've heard from our own department heads that this building needs security. Well, they pretty much claimed it needs security. It needs cameras. It needs locking doors at 5 o'clock. It needs a whole host of things. But when it came to the IT area, they clearly say one administrator for this entire county, one. They should be certified. They should have the degrees. It's not what we have. It's not. Now, I know we have Marty. Marty's Marty. He's a contracted individual. Did talk to Jefferson County. They contract the whole thing. To the county, to the sheriff, it's all the same group. That probably is where we need to go to meet the specs of what that report says. And to me, on the IT, this reports to the commissioners. It's not, the sheriff doesn't get to say what he wants. You guys gave that authority to him to have this, that individual, as you just said, he doesn't have any qualifications. It's what he does. He knows how to do it. Some of it, he's higher than the average person, but he doesn't have the certifications for IT.
He actually has some certifications.
Show us-
I mean,
Rick,
I asked him to come tonight.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm looking at
He's
what
willing
the cyber group,
Homeland
just that was
Security.
the Homeland Security stamp, what that report says. And again, they are offering that any of us can join a call. They'll us to name the date and they'll walk through this. It's really not council's call, but I mean, when you read that report, it is very valid over what they believe in the world that we live in now, what we should have. So I don't disagree with, in looking at it, I agree that, Gail has brought it up. I know that, Gail Rails has brought it up. Don has brought it up. We need better security. They recommend putting a deputy in the building. They recommend the locking doors. They recommend the sliders. They recommend even our HVAC. They told us what the negatives of having that down here are. That report's pretty inclusive. We should pay attention to it. As far as the IT person, I agree. Take the IT off of your name. If you pay him to be the GIS coordinator, then he's the GIS coordinator.
That's absolutely fine, because ever since I put two
But if we
letters.
hire an administrator to the county, that administrator is in charge of everything.
What I came here tonight to let you know is I've talked to Kevin about that, and he is a massive asset to that place 24/7. Okay? That's just the facts. I reached out to him. I said, hey, the commissioner's just thinking about, would you be interested? Because this is what was talked about at the last council meeting.
That one IT person.
Would you be interested in getting with Marty and looking and seeing on that side of the fence? He's already talked to Marty. He is willing to take a look at that and see if that's something extra he wants to tackle. But obviously, he's not going to commit to it. I wouldn't ask him to commit to it. This county, we wouldn't want him to commit to it until he gets to shadow a little bit with Marty, see what he might be biting off. But if that's not what you're looking for, then I'll
After
take
seeing the
IT off
report,
his name and he
I
can
think we
remain
need
on
some
my
sort of
payroll,
date.
just like he's been for the last 20-some years. And then you guys can do what you got to do. I mean, I don't know.
How much time would you need? to see if he's interested?
can't give you a definitive answer on that because I don't know the scope of Marty's duties. He and I have had a couple of brief conversations, but not to that extent. So, yeah, we'd be talking at least, a couple months at the minimum to probably get a feel for how things work. You're not just talking about the courthouse, you're talking about the highway department, tech center. I mean, there are other
That's why they're
facilities
so
that
big.
takes care of.
So you have that.
Marty's reception.
How did you give it to commissioners for the next year?
Well,
And
he's
have
got
that report? I mean,
I mean, he's gonna train him, so he don't have to.
He
I don't know.
he actually came to a meeting and indicated that he wanted to phase out.
He's
ready to
He
retire.
he may have changed that view.
But my question to Brian would be, I think the only way this would make sense is if Kevin's readily available whenever he's needed. And in your explanation of his value to the sheriff's department, I want to make sure that if we do come up with something that works, that it doesn't negatively impact you,
It's not gonna.
number one, but also that he is readily available whenever somebody in the tech building or the courthouse or whatever.
Well,
Kevin, what certifications do you currently hold?
I currently have 2 national certifications through what's called CompTIA. I have my A+ certification and I have my Network Plus. And I've been working on those. I have both of those certifications now. And I was planning on going for my cyber this year, or I take 2025, sorry.
So Microsoft, you don't have any of those certifications?
Not those specific ones, no.
And that's what they're, go read it. Jen read the report.
I think 20 years of experience over some greenhorn coming in here with those certifications at 22 years old. Yeah, I'd probably take the 20 years experience over top.
Well, Matt, not knocking the studies, but we've all seen it. I mean, even when there's been assessments, I don't want to get off the IT subject, but when you get on the security side of things, when you have assessments done, a lot of times they'll put you at state. This is what you need to do. Well, it's not Marion County. We don't need 4 or 5 security guards. We don't need 14 metal detectors and an elaborate camera system. And a lot of times when you ask for those reviews, that's what they'll do.
Yeah, I'm not one way, I don't know if you heard me, but I think you have this report, let the new commissioners look at the report and see how they want to assess it. It's clear that we have jobs to do. It's clear what they've recommended for the courthouse for security. Those things need to be assessed. It's not council's job to do it. In this regard, with the individual that you have, that you list IT on, whoever the new administrator is, they need to appoint who is going to administrate the entire system for the county.
Well, my
Be
IT
there
guy
for-
is certified to take care of the IT stuff at my house. And has the certifications with IDAX and the whole 9 yards. So that's why I have him.
I would expect that this report is gonna recommend that the county purchase some things.
Yep.
Firewalls and different.
It does.
So that is gonna need to be installed by somebody, but I would think after that's done, then you would have somebody that would manage the system at the county level. That's,
And their recommendation is to have all the certifications.
You have to have one.
You think Marty's certified in all this? Is that the reason?
I have no idea.
He has certifications.
I
I think it's two different-
Microsoft certification does have cyber security certification. Do I know if he's the guy?
Only feels like Microsoft certification. A lot of people have that.
We
They
just
get it in
need to know,
college.
he's willing to work towards that,
Yeah, he's willing to do that. At the last council meeting, I'll just be perfectly honest with you. From what I was watching, it almost sounded like that if he's not, then we need to cut his pay. Well, his pay he just received the same % pay raise as everybody else has
He's
over
been
the
here
last
so long.
25 years.
Once Matrix.
He does it. When I went to Kevin 2 or 3 years ago and said, hey, I'm gonna put IT next to your name, here's an extra 5 or 10 grand. That didn't happen.
We also said that it could be a possibility of an increase.
Well, definitely, yeah.
Take
Combining
him
the
on
two
for work, if he's willing to take that on, but it was almost like, hey, we're gonna
Which would
hold
save
this
us
over your
money.
head. If you're not willing to take on the extra work for a little compensation, then we're gonna deduct your pay. Well, it's like, we can't do that.
No, he would.
Yeah, as far as any compensation now, I think we're too early to talk about that until I understand what the scope of the responsibilities would be. So I wouldn't even talk about that at this point.
He's a flyer rate, 75 an hour.
Which, Jamie, talking about the availability, it's been another nice thing. He literally lives beside the sheriff's office, so when 911 servers go down at 2 AM or on a Sunday afternoon, he's there, so the availability is nice.
How long is Marty contracted for?
We don't even have a actual commitment contract in terms
As
of
needed.
terms, length, just
Yeah.
dollar amount
So
per hour.
I mean, if we just remove the IT office salary, you guys, new commissioners look at this thing.
I responded to Karen's email and said, you know, obviously this isn't something that's gonna get addressed in this calendar
I
year.
saw that.
The new administration needs to review it, look at it, decide what they wanna do. The other factor that goes into it is Brack Rails, who typically does the county, that's always maintained the county website. He's also retired, so we need to consider somebody that's gonna be able to do
There you go.
all of it.
Right, well, like I said, Kevin's not out here trying to get a part-time job or take on extra work to make extra money. You know, I just want to ensure that if he doesn't get involved in this side of the street, that there's not a reduction in his pay. I mean, that's just not right.
I agree.
I mean, he's not making a nickel more because I put 2 little letters next to his name 2 years ago, and that's when all this fire started. So I would gladly remove that from his title.
Because it looks like we're hiring 2 IT people. I look like at that, and I think, well, we got 2 IT. Why do we?
Well, when
have
you,
2 IT for the county?
you know, when you asked me to come to the meeting, I'm like, I think there's a misconception, you know, when somebody says
There
the
is.
county has 2 IT people. Well, instantly people think that's 2 full-time people with salary benefits and all they do is IT, and that's not the case.
That's not the case.
So just remove the IT from his,
Yeah.
Yes.
Fine.
he's still gonna be Kevin, so.
And if I could add one more thing, if you decide to go down the route where you guys want to bring in somebody else, I mean, it would be ultimately up to the sheriff whether or not they take care of the sheriff's office, but obviously I'd be happy to assist in whatever transition there was there if it became necessary. So,
Thank you. All right, next one on the list was the treasurer, and we already had that taken care of with Yvette, that she needs 5,000 extra clerical and not a part-time position.
But I don't know, did you discuss it with everyone? Because it wasn't at a,
Yeah, we discussed, I mean, I've called everybody, told them that,
it doesn't,
but
should
I
we bring it
guess we
up?
can vote on it.
I mean, because at the last meeting, I was told to remove the part-time position, which I did, and then you told me to put.
And then I went and
5,000
talked
back
to her, because
in.
we were gonna
just
talk to
as
everybody, and she said, she did not plan to hire a part-time position. But just like we've done with the auditor, when the new auditors come in, we've given them $5,000 extra clerical for them to have some training. Of what I mean by that is for her to hire someone in part-time while she, just for extra clerical, no benefits, no nothing, just extra clerical help. So where you would pay somebody like Gail would come in the spring when they're doing the spring taxes to make sure everything is done properly. She just wanted a
This
little.
auditor did extra money when I came into office.
Yeah, no, you don't make extra money. We
No, I didn't get
trained
it in
some-
my,
we
no,
paid
nobody
some-
came
yeah.
in my office to
Yeah.
do any extra training, so.
You were in the courthouse, I guess you kind of went in there and trained with Yvette when she was
But-
there, but we've done that before.
Back in the day, wasn't there like a carryover year? Back in the day for some offices?
In the clerk's office, there was a carryover.
Is it just the clerk's office?
It's a carryover year.
They did it when your mom was in.
Yeah. So extra clerical,
Just extra
And
clerical.
that extra clerical, it's in the salary,
Considered extra.
it's in the salary ordinance, but it may not be used.
It's extra
And
clerical,
she may just hire somebody during the tax season,
just during spring, and she wanted $5,000 in the budget for extra
or
clerical.
even
So that she
maybe,
could do it.
Does this normally happen annually?
no.
It probably will only happen one time, just this year.
I think it pops up during, after an election. You get somebody new coming in, and it's different offices.
It's just for this year only. It won't be-
I'm fine with doing it. I think we should formally vote on it because we passed
I think we should.
9,000 in the budget and we're gonna reduce it. I think it's fine. We should
And
vote
it's
on it.
being changed, the name is.
Yeah, the name is being
part-time deputy
changed.
to
It's not a part-time deputy, it's just extra clerical. And it's listed as part-time deputy, so it does need to change.
I'll make a motion for the treasurer to have an extra clerical for the amount of $5,000.
I'll second it.
Is that Andy second? Okay. Okay, Matt made the motion, that the treasurer have a extra clerical instead of the part-time position. It's for $5,000. Andy seconded, all in favor? All right. Is there anything else in the salary ordinance anybody has a question about?
Really raised, but
I mean, because that was all the things we were talking about before, but
Yes.
in light of what has happened tonight, I mean, we've got, well, technically $44,000. I'd like to look at increasing some of these salaries. There's five elected positions and 16, I'll call them deputies, they're not all deputies. And I can name them off and what I think, that I've put together. The 5 elected would be the clerk, auditor, treasurer, recorder, and assessor, a $1,000 increase for each. And the 16 deputies would be a $2,000 increase each, which doesn't compensate the 36 to 40. That's still not enough, but it's something. It's what we've got to work with.
We're at 16 deputies.
So it'd be the clerk deputy, auditors 2 deputies, treasurer deputy, recorder deputy, prosecutors, the office manager and victim assistant, the assessor deputy, the ISETS clerk or deputy, whichever one. I think it's called deputy. Election deputy. The extension office would be the office manager position. I did the courthouse tech building custodian. In the circuit court department would be the court reporter and the jury administrator / office manager. I know it's kind of labeled differently. Prosecutor, the IV, the child support administrator, and also the EMA director, who I know works well over 40 hours, but that salary's lower than it ought to be. What's that?
His got changed from, they took some, I think 1,296 and moved it to the overtime line. So he's still got a pay increase, but his overtime line.
This has changed, and those ones that you all mentioned all had a 4% increase. Got a 4% raise. When we did the salary ordinance, they were a 4% raise. The sheriff's deputies had 11% raise. The jailers were at a 7% raise. And I think, because everybody got a raise, except elected officials. Council didn't get a raise, commissioners didn't get a raise, elected officials didn't get a raise.
Council and commissioners are paid pretty well compared to other counties.
I think different commissioners are the lowest paid commissioners of the state.
They are.
Already.
No.
Yeah. If we're gonna get elected, if we're gonna get raises, we should give everybody a raise, not just pick and choose a few of them. I mean, we've gotten a raise on council one time in my 8 years. We have four total. We have not taken a raise, and the commissioners have not taken a raise, so we had money to give to the employees.
That's also.
And I would like to spend that $40,000 on the tech building that we need $50,000 for. And $25,000 for Moorfield Bennington. I would rather that money go towards that.
Money can't, this is general fund money.
I can agree with Lance, we give all the deputies that, but no elected officials get a raise.
I mean,
And I make that statement, you gotta be careful here, but if you've read the SBOA's audit report, you can see why I'm saying part of that, and it's gonna go public when it comes in, but we gotta hold ourselves accountable here. And elected officials run their departments, so let's get ourselves in order. I agree, we didn't fund for the tech building, Bennington. 0 for elected officials, give the employees their increases.
What's wrong with appropriating the money out of the general fund to pay those things?
What is it?
And what's wrong with appropriating the money out of the general fund that we're putting back in the general fund, which actually was 44,000 tonight, because we took.
And I was counting for 37,000 with that, what I just read. It'd be 32 on those deputies and 5 for the elected is what I come up with. But that has to stay in the general fund. They can't go to the tech building. They can't go to Moorfield Bennington. That's.
So when we appropriate money to, for the tech building and for Moorfield Bennington, you're saying, where's that money gonna come from?
That's going to Messina.
Doesn't have to come from the casino, it can come from the general fund.
But those.
You can appropriate the money from the general fund to pay for something. It doesn't.
Outside the general fund?
No.
Pay for something outside the general fund with general fund money? Is that what you're saying?
Okay, there's money in the general fund that we pay. It should have been in the general fund to start out with.
It never
I mean,
has. and I
it hasn't
disagree.
been, but it was told to be put in the general fund when we were doing the budgeting. When we
Who
were,
owns those
when we were
buildings?
seeing
Who
where
owns
we
that?
were at,
Who owns that?
it was told to put, the county owns it, and it's a county
that?
building, and it should be in the general
Nurse
fund.
Managed Clinic.
The only reason why it
Big building.
wasn't is that it doesn't
More
fund
than
itself.
sewer.
Doesn't fund itself. And it is kept separate because,
Same way with the business part.
so they're
Give all
trying
that
to
shit
track
away.
whether it can pay for itself.
Right, they have their own revenue streams and it's
Yeah.
isolate them, just like SCR.
Yeah,
I mean, nurse
but
managed
it
clinic
doesn't
is,
fund.
yeah, I mean, I mean, and I'm fine with Matt mentioned
I'm
separate.
happy with the salary rate that where we're at,
Back in.
with the $19.50 an hour. I think I'm happy with that when you,
I'll make the motion, Lisa, because I'm hearing people say they'll back it.
okay,
So 0 increase for any elected official. The deputies get their, and employees get their increases as they were recommended.
which is what we have here.
That's what we had.
What we, not their original what we ended up recommending with Lance just goes.
But we also talked in the budget meeting about, because we did not give raises to the elected officials at that time. We talked about putting that back in there for them if we could. I think we can.
Let's just start with the employees. I'll second Matt's motion.
So this is for the 16 I read,
Yep.
$2,000,
So,
Yep, they're getting some.
$2,000.
0 for elected.
Deputy clerks.
The
The deputy
deputies,
clerks, your motion was not made for any of the elected officials yet.
No, my motion is 0 for elected officials,
Okay.
deputy
Okay.
clerks, and
I just
and
want to make sure
employees get their
you,
increase.
because Andy thought it was just the,
okay, 0 for elected officials, and how much was the deputies?
I was gonna separate them. If you had an issue with one, I thought it'd be easier to separate them.
What was the deputies you were saying?
2,000.
Give each one in $2,000?
Yes.
That's on top of their salary, so.
And it was the EMA director was in there too. I mean, I called them deputies. There's some that's not actually deputies, one's an
And
officer.
the EMA director was, let me find it.
There's 17 total.
There's six, I think it's 16.
16.
And you're just doing a flat 2,000 on top of their salaries of what they have after the 4% increase that we already had on there.
so you got,
What was your original recommendation, guys, for your people?
Whatever we submitted, I mean, I don't know at this
I
point.
think.
5% increase
5
mostly.
6.
Is that
I don't
2,000?
think it made the whole 5,
Yeah.
though.
I think that's,
Yeah.
so we gave the highway's gonna get what their recommendation.
Is the
The highway
2,000 on,
got like 6, 7.
just to clarify, because we're going back and forth, is the 2,000 on the 2,080 or 1768 hours?
That's 2080.
2,080.
Just want to be clear.
2080 hours.
On their
So it's effectively $1 an hour.
Which
Little bit of-
will, I'm gonna tell you what that hourly rate changes to. Because it's an hourly employee, there's no such thing as.
Yep.
Salary, okay, so, the deputy treasurer, for instance, with the 4% increase that we had on here was 40,000. It was 40,560.
Go ahead, 2,000,
Yeah.
42,560. Divide that by 2080.
Plus 2,000. So it's 42,560 divided by 2,080. That
That's
would
6
be
cents an hour.
$20.46 an hour.
start.
There you go.
So that means Gail would have to change all of that, should this pass. It hadn't passed yet, but just discussing it. Okay, and then, I still haven't found that, EMA. Is that paid on the back shade? Is that maybe that's on the?
Tell you back page.
It's,
Director, about the eighth one down.
That we.
He's always been
Okay,
paid
I
the same
see
as
it,
deputy.
I see it. Okay, so his is at 4060, right?
Yeah, he's always been paid the same. as deputy.
Okay, and
And
you,
it's,
and you
you look
wanna
around
change,
at other county EMA directors and they're way higher
you
than
wanna
that.
change that to what?
He was on that list in 2000.
Yeah, it's same as all the other.
Okay.
You should already had a new salary down for him, and I think it was more than the 5%, if I'm not mistaken.
It was.
Yeah.
Just a question in the crowd,
It was a significant difference.
question in the crowd.
Pardon me? Oh, yes.
He's there.
You guys have to remember too, that 40, whatever, 46,
Yeah.
FEMA's paid 18,000 of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, everybody knew that.
Okay, so I'm gonna make sure I get this right, okay. Hold on a minute. Because hourly rate matters to me. Let's see your list of it all. Because,
It's all the highlighted green ones.
okay.
It's 96 cents an hour.
Okay. All right, I'm just looking at jailers' pay rates, what I'm looking at. They work 40 hours a week. They work 40 hours.
You don't have the payroll.
And, like,
She's making the same as them.
there are, even with the salary increase that they had, they were gonna be making 40,560 at 19.50 an hour. We have some that are $19 an hour, 19.25. The part-time jailers are $17 an hour, with the rate, and that just bothers me.
We're supposed to be bumped up.
I took it down.
Part-time, there are 4 part-times, it's 22, 7, 26. There's, yeah, you're right, there's 3. They've got 5 written on here, but there's only 3 of them that have the numbers out to it. And that comes out, it depends on how many hours. So maybe that is more per hour, but it's got 17 written, because if she figured it on 20 hours a week, do you know how much they do part-time?
Couple of different things.
Yes, there is, sitting for.
Change that, so.
It's written out as 17, so maybe it's because of how many hours we made into that salary. Maybe that's why that is. You got communication officers making less money than $20.46 an hour too. But that's just me. I see jobs at different levels. For me, that's a different level of a job. It takes us more certifications. They have more certifications and they are in harm's way.
I've also said it before, and not the devil's advocate, if the jailer's not happy where they're at, they can either go somewhere else, or they can come over here to one of the better paying positions if that's what they want to do. I mean, that.
Well, then then vice versa. So if you don't like making $19.50 an hour working in the courthouse, then you can go across the street and make $20.50 an hour.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's the same thing.
Good luck finding jailers.
Yeah,
Little
it's the environment is totally different and the job is totally different. And in my world, that job should pay more money because of what it is. It's just, and that's one of the reasons why we increase the sheriff's department, their deputies 11%. We gave them because of what it is. And you had the money to do it. And I think you got to divvy it out to the spots that are under.
So do you have a recommendation for what you want?
Don't we have a motion?
Yeah, we do. We don't have
In a second.
Okay.
Did you second it?
She can table it because she wants to.
And I am the president and I can table it until I'm done thinking about it. I don't have to call for the vote until I decide to call for the vote. So there, I made an ass out of myself there. I just thought I'd tell you that, just to remind you. I could call for a vote when I decide to call for a vote, or I can not call for a vote. So there. All right.
Lisa, what?
I'm still
you want a
working through my head
recommendation?
because I want to vote for this correctly. I don't want to not vote to give money that we've got money to give raises to. But it bothers the heck out of me to give a raise to a deputy in the courthouse, to give them $2,000 and not give it to somebody that's making less than them right now. That's a jailer or a communications person. To me, the jailer or the communications person is, I'm not gonna say a more important job, but it's vital, it's important, and they're in harm's way, and we're sitting here wanting to pay them less because someone inside this building thinks $19.50 is not fair to be a clerk. I happen to think that it's fair.
I think if you've got a
I'm
jailer
trying
that's
to
6
justify
months in,
myself.
compared to somebody that's in the courthouse that's 5 years in, there's no way that jailer is gonna be paid more than the person working in the courthouse. You gotta also think about their time served, building up their knowledge and processes.
Yeah, and they have a lot of turnover there. Part of it's because they don't get paid enough to do what they have to do.
Mike, the difference there is,
Am I wrong?
we don't do individual assessments within the department.
Totally agree.
That's the problem with what you're saying. I agree. If we did individual assessments and you believe you have a great clerk, then that department head should be giving that clerk 5%, and giving the next one 3%. I
But it's
think
all
where
the
you're
same.
going
Because
is,
for the past couple of years, this is all new to me. This
Yeah.
is how you guys, how the county does it with the salary ordinance and the hourly rates and stuff is new to me because it's usually hourly by job, the position, and then it increases from there on out based on,
so with Lisa, what I'm hearing Lisa say is by the risk associated with the job. And Lisa, I'm not hearing anybody say that. I think you ought to make a recommendation, because I haven't heard anybody say this is wrong. And
But
then go
they
off
weren't
of that
included.
salary.
They
Well, but this is what I was gonna say. If this passes, you've still got $12,000 sitting here.
Yeah.
Make a recommendation for the jailers if that's where you're.
Does each of the positions like deputies and the jailers, do they have a minimum starting wage? Like if you was to hire a new jailer tomorrow. do
It's
they
on,
have
it's on a
minimum starting
matrix,
wage?
and they,
What is your starting wage?
Whatever's in the salary ordinance.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
But to answer your question, Mike, we got a matrix system.
Yeah, your matrix.
If you decide to come to work for me tomorrow as a jailer, you'd start out at the bottom because you have no experience.
Understand.
But if you walked in over there and said, hey, I just come from Jefferson County Jail as a 10-year jailer, then I'm gonna look on my matrix, and I'm gonna start you with 10-year experience.
Automatically?
Yes.
Yeah, the matrix has a minimum.
Keep in mind that all those positions have a trial period. There's a probation period.
Understand.
their
I'm not
highest
gonna
paid,
get-
their
I'm not gonna get
highest
it.
paid jailer makes $21.25 an hour.
But how long is that?
That's not the sergeant, and because we gave a significant raise to the sergeant this year. And it isn't the commander, they make more, but the highest paid jailer that's been there for a good little while,
He's been there 13 years.
he makes $21.25 an hour.
Okay.
And we are crying about $19.50 an hour in the courthouse.
Well, I say if he's been
And-
there 13 years, he's underpaid. Yeah, it's just-
That's my opinion.
But Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. But with the new wages or rates, that matrix pretty much out the window,
Well,
correct?
yeah, and it does.
I mean, it has no meaning now.
Yeah, it does get that, because what happens is, and Randy mentioned it at a meeting, yeah, the matrix has been bumped up a few times over the years. But it's like I told you guys at the salary meeting on budgets. We're just trying to get in the game, regardless.
That
Yeah.
21.25 an hour is after we gave them a 7% increase this year. After
What
the
Jamie's
7%
saying,
increase.
what Jamie's
So
saying
they
is
work
right.
under that
You made the
before,
matrix set too low.
and they work 40 hours a week. They work
We
36
put
in
the
3
matrix in
days.
the game.
Nights, 311s, every holiday.
They work
We just,
12 hours
45
a day.
days ago, we just sat in a room, made all these changes.
They don't
Using
have 14
rationale.
paid holidays.
Using a rationale and a philosophy to get the law enforcement in this community up to snuff, up to speed. We're well short of where we need to be. But we made a nice effort with the funds that we had available. And now at the 11th hour, we're about to reverse it. I'm not in favor of Matt's motion.
I'm not either.
So,
But I'm trying to reason it out, because I don't want to, if you have money to give raises, I'm always about giving a raise. I just think we're doing it in the wrong spot.
What motion are you done?
You made zero
I
elected
agree with
officials,
that
but to
portion
give
of it.
2,000 to the deputies.
if we're gonna hand out more money, I think we ought to go back to law enforcement and pay where we need to.
Same thing.
Split it.
And, who said split?
Me.
All right, and I'm just thinking that same thing,
Well,
not do
it's gotta be fair.
2,000,
I was just thinking, I don't have a horse in this race,
yeah,
so I don't know if there's a reason for me to be here any longer.
Yes.
there is. You can go if you want to. You gotta wait till we adjourn. This is the last thing on the docket. This is the last thing. I'm to do 1,000. And then, you said, we had how much? Can we give the jailers 2,000 or, let me go to communication people. These are the people that answer the call when the emergency call comes in. The communications, there's a communications officer that makes $18.23 an hour. There's one that makes $19.43. We have we have 3 people that make above $20 an hour in the communications department. $20 an hour. But you think that it's important to make, and they work 40 hours a week already. but you think it's important to spend the money that we have to put on salaries on people that work 36 hours a week, maybe,
No nights, no weekends, no.
no
holidays.
nights, no weekends, no holidays. And you want to give them a raise over the 40-hour-a-week employees in harm's way that work 7 days a week. I don't understand that.
How many employees you looking at, like stuff?
Huh?
How many employees you looking at over there?
Um, let's see.
On the jailers,
Let me, okay.
just for,
Okay, for jailers, we got one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
I'm in
9.
favor for the motion on that. Well, I mean, that's where I was heading.
There's nine full-time jailers, 10 full-time jailers, because the sergeant's considered full-time, right?
Make a motion. If you want to do it.
So there's 10 full-time jailers, and there are 3 part-times. And then in the communications, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 officers in the communications. Is that correct? Which ones are the?
2 of them are paid out of the 1222, which was the state highway.
Okay, that's on the back. Okay, okay.
So 18 in total, 10 and 8.
Okay, so there's 8 communications. And there are 10 jailers. So
18.
it'd be 18,000. And then how many of the?
16.
There were 16 of them?
The court reporter and the jury admin, they got a better raise than what the deputies in the other offices did.
How much of a better raise?
Well, the
5% instead of 4%?
I think it was 5,000. It was a flat number.
Well, no, that was the prosecutor that wanted to do that.
What was it?
This is.
sure gave up his 5,000.
Was it 5%?
Well, he gave me a lot of people
It was-
5,000.
Yeah,
Was it 5% instead of 4%?
at least.
Okay. I don't think we did anything. The only ones that we did larger, I think there might have been somebody that had a 5%. I can look it up real quick, prosecutor. Is 4%.
Prosecutor did, yes,
Yeah,
but this is the judge's office.
yeah. The judge's office. That might have been 5%. Okay. Back to $18,000. If we did $1,000 on every communication and every jailer, and then you said there were how many in the courthouse?
Even 16.
I think 16. They're not all in the courthouse, but.
Well, 16 that were, we were
16
wanting
people.
to get 2,000 each.
I'm
too.
doing 2000 each, 16.
Okay, so if we gave them, well, you're really fast with numbers, Matt, James.
16 and 18, that's our number, 16.
It's 34,000.
That's out of 1,000.
That's at 1,000, so make it 2,000.
For everybody, it'd be 68,000.
Yeah. Still comes out of general fund.
But you don't have that much to play with, do you?
We don't.
It doesn't, that doesn't matter, right? After the budget's done, the budget's
$44,000.
done is budget done. It doesn't matter what the salaries are, right?
No, the salary
No,
is
it
still
does,
considered
because
part
it has
of
to, it has to fall into the, I mean, your budget has to balance.
Yeah, good luck.
The budget has to balance, so. Okay, we had, now I will go ahead with that vote now. 0 on elected officials, 2,000 on the 16 people that you mentioned, which were deputies. Okay, is what the motion was for. And we had a second. The motion was made by Matt, the second was by Andy. And we've had a long discussion, sorry, James, because I have to be okay with it before I vote for it, and I wasn't okay with it, so. So we can call for that vote now. The motion, Matt,
Well, are you clarifying that you want to increase the jailers? Is that what you want to do?
that's, I would, if I had extra money to throw to salary, I'm gonna throw it to the people that are.
It would have to be after this one. Motion on the floor is not.
Yeah,
You can do it.
This motion
I
has to
just
be.
want to know, you know that there is money that you do have to do what you still want to once this motion's done.
Yes.
Okay.
Not at a $2,000 level.
Nope, it would have to be totally different in order for me to vote for it.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm only one person.
I'm even $30. We're getting 32 last year.
We have $44,000, and that's it, and that's without cutting out the. Suzanne.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, I think the revenue off the code enforcement officer would probably give you the money to make all decisions.
Maybe the first year.
But it clean things up and make things safe.
And community.
That's okay.
That's the question you get to ask.
Take it.
All right, when I get
Before
called.
the vote or after the vote? I'm afraid to
Do it before the vote if you want to do
Oh,
it. I think we do. We need to have to.
And here's what my proposal would be. If it was me doing, and I have $44,000 to change the salaries on people, I would want to do the 8 communications officers and the 10 jailers. And let me add this up real quick. This is not a motion because we haven't done the other one yet, but I want to tell you where I'm at. I'm going to take 15. $27,000 of it for that. And we have 44. We have 17 left.
There you go.
That's what I would want to do, because I think that it's important that we, the jobs that are already working 40 hours, and they work 40 hours, they work weekends, they work holidays, I would want to give the communications officers and the 10 jailers a $1,500 bump. And then that would take 27,000 of the 44 that we have changed in the salary ordinance. And then you would have, what I tell you, 17,000 left.
Yeah.
And then I would want to do 1,000 bump to the ones that you mentioned.
I mean,
I can get behind that.
And that's 500 more for the
you
ones
know what,
over there.
does anybody know why I picked those positions?
No.
Because they're the ones that show up every week, every month, talks about it.
These are the people, the majority of these positions were the ones that were asked to work more hours for no more money.
And they didn't.
And I'm trying to make that right. We've discussed that, and that's, I'm not comparing these to jailers. I'm just saying these are the ones that were asked to work more hours.
So
I'm trying to,
I agree. We only have.
once and for all, just try to give them something.
And
All it is.
okay.
That's it.
You asked, they were asked to work more hours and they didn't.
Yes, we did.
Yep.
Yes, we did.
Let's stay on this. Let's, right here, see? We gotta hold the public out. This is a decision that needs to be made by the group.
I have a question though.
Yes.
Do you realize that the payroll clerk, that he didn't add that in position in there?
Pardon me?
The payroll deputy in my office?
Yes.
I think it needs to be added in there. That's not.
Well, there's the extra 1,000. Because if we did 16 people,
I
there's
mean, I'm not trying to
17,000
go
left.
against him. Lance has his reasoning why he's doing that, but
There's another 1,000 for that.
You know,
can add
they-
that one into that.
I'm gonna remove my motion. Right now, I'm removing my motion. So floor is yours to take it, get to where you wanna go.
Do I have to remove my second?
You sold it all to me.
Okay, does this make sense to you guys or not? Does it make sense to you or not?
I would
To
like to
take-
vote on the first.
You have $44,000. You have $44,000. You want to give increases to people that we want, you want to you want to spend it on increases in salaries. All right, we'll do that.
Why do we only have $44,000?
Because we took $40,000 out of the,
From the commissioners.
I mean,
commissioners. We took $40,000 salary out of the,
Oh, by the way, after we had already come up with our 10% at that,
Yeah,
so
I know.
keep in mind, and not very many other people did.
Don't get too mad. And we took 4,000 from the treasurer. Yeah, because it was in here for 9. Now this passed the budget, okay? So you took 40,000 out of one salary because we eliminated it. We took $9,000 down to $5,000, so we have $44,000 in the salary ordinance that we can adjust to put in people's salaries.
For 7 years, budget had absolutely nothing to do with salaries, and I know that sounds stupid, so let me just, if we approve what,
No, it did. For 7 years, we have always had an idea what the salary was gonna be, because it has to be added in when it goes in the state numbers. the salary ordinance is not passed until later on. I never did understand why, but you typically do all the salary ordinance when you're doing the budget, because you can't ask for more money that you don't have. You know what I mean? So it's always kind of done together, even though it's done separately. It's still kind of done together, because you have to know that. I would want to give $1,500 to the communications, 8 communications, the 10 jailers, and then give $1,000 to everyone that he mentioned as a deputy, with an addition to the payroll clerk.
I would second that motion.
So,
Bundle everybody.
Except for the elected officials.
Yes.
Elected officials, yes, sir.
so Matt, you actually did withdraw your,
I did.
That would be my motion. We gotta wait for Todd to come back.
What is it?
It's 15
8
months.
communications officers?
8 communications officers and 10 jailers, $1,500 bump,
You got
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
and you didn't miss him.
How many
You told me right.
How many jailers?
Right. 8,
Oh, 10.
8 and
10
10.
and 8. 10 jailers, 8 communications, you're
Yeah.
16 plus 1. is
And then
17,
you're 16 plus the payroll
1,000
clerk.
for the other.
Get $1,000 bump. If you wanna know what that does for the salaries?
does that matter, since some of them come out of the 911? That's what I thought, does it all affect the,
That
in
would
the
be,
public safety?
or that would be $19.98 an hour,
Yeah, never mind. That's-
almost $20 an hour.
What does it put what does that put the 1,000,
That's on a 40-hour work week.
what does that put what's your magic number, the 1950 or whatever that number is?
For, that puts like 1998.
For the communications side.
Oh, communications? They all have different amounts. because-
Yeah, don't worry about it. Take that for this.
I'll tell you. Okay, communications officer.
Absolutely.
There's one guy that's a communications officer that makes, let me add it up, he made, I'll do the one that made $18.93 an hour. 39375. He will now make $19.65 an hour. He still makes a little bit less than the people in the courthouse. Even though he got a $1,500 bump. Instead of a $1,000 bump. He still makes less.
I haven't gotten it yet, you haven't voted.
Yeah. Everybody went to the bathroom. Now, the guy that makes 1968 right now will now be making $20.40 an hour. Communications person instead of 1998 in the courthouse. So it's a little bit of a difference, even though you see, you kind of getting an idea of how lopsided things are, kind of are. I mean, we're giving him a $1,500 bump and he's only making 50 cents more an hour. So that should tell you right there. Hey, all right. You guys all cleaned up, ready to go?
Yes.
All right. So, anybody, we got a motion. We got a second. You want me to read it? You say what that motion is?
Since he was out.
Okay, the motion is to give $1,500 bump to the 8 communications officers and the 10 jailers. And $1,000 bump to all of the deputies that Lance mentioned, and the extra one would be for the payroll clerk, because they did not have her mentioned. They would get $1,000 bump, and that would spend every bit of the money that we saved tonight on the salary ordinance. Zero for elections, elected officials. We got a motion, we got a second. All in favor? Motion carries.
Opposed.
Opposed.
2 opposed. Okay. All right. Anybody else got anything else?
You make a motion to approve salary ordinance, let's skip the next meeting.
We have to sign
Still
it.
have to, you still have to sign it.
It's done. All we gotta do is vote on it now.
All right. Drag it out.
She's gotta change it. We're gonna look it over.
You can't do it.
We can't do it tonight. She doesn't have it. So,
We're not gonna drag it out for 2.5 hours.
I'm sorry, this is kind of important. I mean, it's kind of important. You got a question back here?
I didn't hear anything about the health department, what the salary ordinance is gonna be.
Nothing changed.
Nothing changed.
No worries, Kat.
Nothing changed.
No.
What to what?
From what we had originally
Yeah,
asked for. I can give it to, I can show
well, we
you.
had it before. There wasn't anything that was in question.
Okay.
It wasn't in any question. All right, anybody else got any questions, concerns, upsets, motion to adjourn, all that kind of stuff?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Taking off this.
Good job.
I'm enough on that.
They start bitching about that. Arizona,